No, it has.
Just started the recording, so.
Great. Thank you for the reminder, Marie, and for getting that started. All right. So here's our session agenda. Basically, we can jump back over if we want to, but we presented at the beginning of the meeting the overall engagement activity results that we had. And then that was just a good opportunity for us to engage people that were interested in participating in the panel. It allowed us to send out an invitation to the participants via email and then provide some fun statistics so we could understand the participation. We'll turn those on again, I think, at the end of the panel, just in case anyone wants to see those results that wasn't here at the beginning. Then we'll talk a little bit about our mission statement and our overall vision. And then Catherine will provide that panel introduction and questions, and we'll follow up with a Q&A in closing. Okay, so the Technical Career Path Affinity Group was started about a year and a half ago by our leads, Linda Freeman and Ananga Fali, and they were interested in finding a path within SWE to provide women overall with an opportunity to advance, pursue, and learn from their peers about advancing the technical career path. So we wanted to work within the SWEs and other affinity groups to provide support and networking for managers of and all SWE members that are focused on pursuing a technical career path. We know there's a lot of great leadership content that's available through SWE, and we wanted to add some additional technical mentorship and growth opportunities for people. And then within the overall technical career path affinity group is our career coaching committee. So our committee is committed to providing SWE members with a technical passion, a means for us to lift up our peers and provide insight on how to navigate the technical career path through sharing stories, providing small group sessions, and one-on-one coaching. So today is actually officially our first panel, and we're really excited to bring that to you. This is our first opportunity to engage. So if you're interested in knowing more or future participation, please let us know. And as we continue our efforts to reach more people and provide more content. So here, I'm gonna hand it over to Catherine. Thank you, Catherine.
Hi, welcome. I'm glad to see so many of you on our Zoom today, and hopefully you're as excited as I am to learn more about technical careers. My name is Catherine Dorsey, and I'll be your moderator for this hour. I'm a senior R&D engineering specialist at Dow. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering and engineering and public policy, and have 13 years experience as a process engineer. And I've always been very insistent on considering myself a technical person, which is why I'm so excited to have this panel here today to share with you all their experiences along the technical career path. I myself started my career as a process engineer working on major capital projects at ExxonMobil before transitioning to research and development. I've gotten to work at all phases of projects and R&D, from blank sheets of paper to starting up a new plant and running field trials. And I've really enjoyed the opportunities to work with multiple disciplinary teams. Currently at Dow, I'm supporting process scale-up and pilot plant design for a broad range of chemistries, from concrete additives to food preservatives. Now, today we have 3 panelists here to discuss what their technical career paths look like. No 2 careers are alike, but you'll probably notice there are some similarities when our panelists start speaking. So first off, many people may not think of a technical career as having a true ladder in the way that management does. We often think of the lone scientist toiling their life away in a lab, but that's not the only option. It is very likely that your company has a technical career ladder, or generally it's more of a pyramid shape, that will allow you to grow both your skills and influence within the company over your career. And just because you don't have any direct reports in many technical roles doesn't mean you're just an individual contributor. You can be much more than that. So what does it mean to be a technical leader? What's the job? Well, the job role varies from organization to organization. Generally, senior technical leaders are expected to do things such as fill the innovation pipeline, not just what are we going to work on this year or next year, but thinking several years out into the future. They're expected to help connect technology to customer and or business needs. They're going to, of course, provide technical expert advice. And they're also usually expected to help fill the talent pipeline for the technical careers and technical roles. Of course, senior technical leader positions, that's the end game. We all start our careers out as individual contributors, laying the foundation of our technical skills. As you grow in your technical career, your level of autonomy and influence increases. You might have a leader manager title in your role at times, or you might not. The technical path looks different from the people and business leader track, and different from company to company and person to person. And now our three panelists will introduce themselves and show you a little bit of what their paths have looked like so far. So Ashley, would you start by introducing yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Wynn. I am a graduate of the University of Rhode Island, where I earned my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering in 2009. And then from there, I went to graduate school at Mississippi State University, where I spent 3 years as a graduate research assistant working on my master's degree. I got that in 2012. And then I moved to Greenville, South Carolina, where I worked for a company called Milliken & Company. I was a process engineer, and I had a couple of R&D roles there as well. And then from there, while I was there, you can see at the top, I married my husband, Zach. And then I moved into a process engineering role with Milliken. After that, due to a couple of safety concerns at the workplace, I decided to move to the company where I'm at now, which is called Sealed Air Corporation. I have been at Sealed Air for almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in August. And my job, so I started as a senior product development engineer, and I was promoted in 2017, actually while I was on maternity leave with my first son. I was promoted to principal product and process development engineer, and I've been in that role since then. My primary job focus, we're a packaging company, so my job is to develop multi-layer polymer packaging solutions. I start in conceptualization, the pilot plant scale, and I move all the way into conceptualization, or all the way into commercialization in the production plants. And so my role is very market-driven, customer-driven. I need to know a lot about our suppliers, our competitors, intellectual property that people are filing, new technology that suppliers are offering, equipment manufacturing, and also the ability to look into the market and see where gaps may be, and come up with solutions or ideas and concepts to test that out. I also need to have a network within the company to execute appropriately. I need to have close relationships with supply chain representatives and business roles, so we have cohesive execution of trials. So I've been able to travel globally quite a bit and work with some diverse groups in different functions of the company, and it's been rewarding. It's hard work, but my favorite part is seeing a new product on a commerce shelf. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay, and Pam?
Hi, I'm Pamela Morrison. I started my career at Procter & Gamble back in 2005. I have a bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering from Rochester Institute of Tech, and I did some co-ops as part of that program. I spent the first decade of my career at Procter & Gamble, initially as a process engineer, but the vast majority of it was as a material engineer. And that means I was responsible for working with somebody like Ashley, actually, on a lot of the materials that went into our products, and also working with our partners in manufacturing and in product development in order to get those into our product. I married my husband in 2013. He had a pretty catastrophic accident 2 weeks before our wedding. And we ultimately made the decision to move to San Jose to pursue an opportunity with Apple in 2015. So I was given the opportunity to start the materials organization in packaging. It was a similar role to what I had done at P&G as a materials engineer, but on a much bigger scale. So I was going to be responsible really for initially all of the materials and packaging. And then once we built the team out, more of the plastic packaging materials and helping to convert them to more sustainable options with the packaging strategy that Apple had. I ultimately decided that it wasn't a perfect fit at Apple. And so in 2016, I moved on to HP, where I currently am employed. Been with HP now for almost 7 years, which is crazy. I joined the 3D print organization as an expert level engineer, owning the reliability for our 3D print product, which was a brand new product. So I got to follow that product from architecture all the way into our customers' hands. Along the way, I was promoted to a master in the operations and customer assurances business, which was a bit of a broadening role for me and kept me close to the customer, but also close to that services organization. In 2021, my role was moved back to Europe. And so I moved over to our personal systems business with responsibility for reliability on our entire personal systems portfolio, which is over 100 products. Last year, I was promoted to distinguished technologist. And in this role, I am still accountable for the reliability strategy for our products. I am also responsible for our serviceability strategy, our design for circularity strategy, and our preventative and predictive maintenance strategies. And I partner across the entire organization from when we're doing early concept work all the way down to issues in the field. And so it's a great opportunity to help build the strategy, both for what we're doing today and how to deliver the best experiences to our customers, but also working with our leaders on what the quality organization needs to look like over the next 5 years to meet our business goals. And I spend a lot of time working with our general managers on that today. So I think that's me.
All right. So hello, my name is Christy Lee. I'm the engineering technical steward for structures and fatigue at Caterpillar. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree from the University of Missouri-Rolla, which is now known as Missouri S&T, in civil engineering. So up until about 2 months before I finished my master's degree, I was planning on a career in civil structures. Right before graduation, I had seen Caterpillar at a career fair at my university, decided to interview and received an offer. So I deliberated for a while and decided to accept Caterpillar's offer and moved to Peoria, Illinois in 1998. And I celebrated 25 years at Caterpillar just last month. Wasn't really sure what I would do as a civil engineer, but I found out pretty quickly. I started out doing structural simulation, finite element analysis on our flagship product, the bulldozers that Caterpillar is known for. Met my husband and married him in 2001, and then took a developmental move over to our technical center, where we do a lot of our research and development. Had some opportunities to develop some new product, implementing some high performance welding technology that had been developed at our technical center just a couple years prior, and then moved into an on-machine testing role. After that, I spent some time as a Six Sigma black belt. So did a lot of process improvements, specifically around our validation processes to improve the efficiency of our testing and also to improve the quality of the data that we were able to provide. After that, I had an opportunity to take a supervisory role. I began managing a team of 12 design and simulation engineers, and I was also tasked with being the research program manager for our advanced structures research program at Caterpillar. After about a year, I was promoted to an engineering manager of that team. And in 2008, right before my son was born, I moved over to manage our structural validation team. So I actually started that role about a month before I went on maternity leave. But part of the reason was that we had some really strong team leads in that section. It was a more established team, so that was a good fit while I was out on leave. After about 5 years of supervision, I decided that I wanted to go back technical. So I took a role in a new part of the organization. I became the senior engineering specialist for structures in our lower powertrain organization. So working on axle structures, met a whole lot of new people there, went through some reorganizations there. And in 2014, my responsibilities expanded. So instead of just having the axle structures, I now was the technical lead for a drivetrain structures team, which included both axles and transmissions. So it increased scope in my role. And then in January of 2020, I was promoted to my current role as the engineering technical steward for structures and fatigue for the entire enterprise. So I provide global enterprise support to all of our divisions with any technical guidance and support that they need for new product introduction programs, field support issues, and research projects. I also do a lot of coaching and teaching. I have a class in structural weld fatigue that I travel around the world to teach to engineers around the enterprise. I manage our structures technology strategy and also manage our research portfolio for structures. And I'm Caterpillar's knowledge owner for structures documentations, including design guides, specifications, and engineering standards. And a big part of my role is leading and facilitating our enterprise large structures community. We have structures engineers in all of our different product families, and part of my responsibility is to make sure that we're all communicating and sharing lessons learned and implementing technology.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? It's not highlighting me.
Yes.
Okay, just checking, my microphone did something weird there. Okay, so now that you've gotten to know our panelists a bit, we'll dive in with the questions. I've tried to incorporate the questions that you all asked when you signed up for this event, but please type any additional questions that come to mind into the chat. Emily will be monitoring that chat and will consolidate similar questions. And towards the end, we'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes to answer any additional questions that come up during today's session that we didn't get ahead of time. So to start off, I'd like to know what skills, both technical and non-technical, do you feel are critical to success in a technical career, especially if you want to become a technical leader? Christy, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Thanks, Catherine. So of course, as a technical leader, that depth and breadth of technical knowledge is really important. So you need to have the depth of knowledge to be able to help answer those challenging questions. But breadth is important as well. Having experience in your particular technology area across multiple disciplines, design, validation, manufacturing, for example, or applications across multiple product lines. Influencing others without authority is also a really important skill. So as a technical leader, I don't have any direct reports. I also don't typically have decision-making authority. So I advise people in the company on a course of action, but ultimately other people make the decision. So I really do need to be able to influence them into making the right decisions. Business acumen is another really important skill. I've learned that the best technical solution is often not the best business solution. So to be able to have those conversations about business trade-offs and to ask the right questions so that we can find the best business solution that has a good technical foundation is really important. And finally, having a strong, diverse network. A lot of the questions that I get asked and the problems that I'm faced with are complex and multifaceted. So I don't have to know all the answers. I often don't. But it is really helpful for me to know who does know the answers and have that expertise, particularly in some of those adjacent technology areas to structures.
Okay, Pam, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Christy's got a great list. Few other things that I can think of that are really important for technical leaders. One is the ability to simplify the complex. We work with a broad range of partners, both technical and non-technical, and we have to make sure that we keep them along the journey with us about why a technology is important or how it fits into the business strategy. And the more that we can simplify that so everyone can partake in the conversation, the better. I would also say that curiosity and willingness to learn new things is critical. I think you've probably already seen a little bit from all of us that many of the things we're working didn't even exist when we graduated college not that long ago. And so you've got to be willing to keep learning throughout your career. It's what makes you relevant and keeps you active in the industry. Collaboration with partners. I think Christy hit on this, but it is so critical. None of us have all the answers and none of us can move the business on our own. So we have to have good relationships with our partners. And then finally, I know Ashley hit on this a little bit earlier, but growing the next generation is essential. Part of our job as senior technical leaders is that we make sure that there's a pipeline of technical leaders behind us to carry the torch when we eventually move on.
Great, thanks, Pam. So Christy raised the skill of business acumen as being key for technical leaders. And I don't think that's quite as obvious of a fit as some of the other skills that were mentioned. So I'd like to talk about it a little bit more. How has your business acumen and knowledge of business priorities contributed to your career advancement? Pam?
I'm going to say that it is critical. I really have to understand what's happening in the business and the business's priorities in order to be able to provide the best technical solution. Like Christy said, the solution that is usually ideal from a technical standpoint is very rarely the best business solution. And so, a big part of our job is to run the analysis, both from a technical standpoint, but also from a business standpoint on multiple options. And then to advise our leaders on what's going to be the best thing for the business. So, for us to be successful, we have to be able to speak both the technical side, that is kind of our native or our natural language, but we also need to be comfortable with the business language and the business environment that we're working in order to be effective in our job as advisors.
Excellent. And Ashley, you decided to go back to school and get an MBA. How has that impacted your career and interactions with your colleagues?
I decided to go back to get an MBA after I'd been working for a couple of years, and I decided to do that because I wanted to broaden my own knowledge of business acumen and also understand tools that people in business roles were using, and broaden my knowledge in that area. I don't know that it has particularly influenced my career like it might for somebody with a business role, but for me, it was valuable to understand a lot of the different terminology and different tools that they were using for analysis, things like profit margin, profit and loss statements, marketing strategies, and really what was influencing business decisions, capital investments, return on investments, things like that. All of those were valuable things that, I understood the general concepts, but it was important and helpful that I know more. And so while I don't believe that it was a direct impact on my career, I do think that it gave me some good rapport with people who were in business roles and let them know that I was, well-rounded and able to discuss technical and business things with them.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I know a lot of people that get their MBAs in hopes of being able to climb the management ladder. But I also know a senior fellow here at Dow who got an MBA after she initially made fellow and said it was one of the best choices she made in her career. So it is interesting to note how you can put different pieces, different interests together and still have a technical career. So one thing I've noticed, and SWE's literature review has found the data on this, is that the proportion of senior technical positions filled by women is lagging the progress we've seen in managerial roles for proportion of women represented. So have you faced any opposition to being on the technical career track or felt pressure to move towards a people or business leader role? And how have you dealt with that? Pam?
Yeah, so I will say, the data that SWE has is very accurate. It is still, a smaller percentage of women in technical roles compared to managerial roles in the technical space. And I will say, it was obvious for me. One company I worked for, they would put posters at the entrance to every building of who our senior technical leaders were, which I'll be honest, I actually kind of like the practice because it makes those people visible so you know who to go hunt out as your resources. But also as a woman, it was very obvious to me that few and far between women were making it to these levels. So just a little bit of a subtle reminder and a reinforcement of the data that SWE has seen. For me personally, I've definitely had lots of conversations along my career about what track is right. I'm what is sometimes referred to as an E-shaped contributor, meaning I've got a lot of depth in a couple different areas, but I also have a lot of breadth. I've worked in consumer products, I've worked in electronics, I've worked in materials, I've worked as a system integrator, I've worked in reliability and quality. So a lot of times my skill set overlaps with managers. And I have been asked on multiple occasions, some as recently as a few months ago, about if I really want to be a technologist or if I want to move to the management side. And so, for me, each time I go back and look at why is it I decided to be a technologist, what gets me up, what gets me excited. And at least at this point in my career, the answer is still absolutely, I want to be a technologist. I love my technical work. I love getting to grow the next generation. But I have to be prepared that I'm going to have to reaffirm that from time to time. And I will also add that, any senior role, management or technical, there are not a ton of these roles. And so you are going to hear the odds of getting to these senior level roles are slim. But remember, it's not just those of us on the technical side that are hearing that. Our management partners are as well. And people reach these levels every day. So don't let that be something that deters you from pursuing your passions.
Awesome. I really relate to what you said about the pictures of the Chiefs on the wall. One of the places I worked previously did that as well, and it was nice to see who they were, their areas of expertise. It helped me meet them when I saw them in the office or know who to go talk to when I had a question. But it was a little depressing at times to see that when I first got there, there were no women on the wall, and after a couple of years, there was just one out of, I think it was 10 chiefs up on that wall. Fortunately, it does seem like it's starting to get a bit better. There are definitely more female fellows and senior fellows here at Dow. And when I talk to women at other companies, it seems to feel like there's been progress in the last few years. But it's really just getting started, and we still got quite a ways to go on that track. So now continuing on how we get to the technical leadership roles, would you tell us about the process for your last promotion? And this one, I will start with Christy.
So for me, it was really pretty straightforward. So when I was promoted, the need to fill the position had to be approved at the senior vice president level. So the hiring manager had to do some legwork in advance. But once that was done, it was a normal post and bid process. So the job opening was posted, I applied for it and went through the interview process, and the hiring manager made the final decision. I will say that I was backfilling someone who was retiring. So it was an existing position, so that approval process was a little more straightforward. It often doesn't go that smoothly when someone's trying to create a new technical position at this level. It can take quite a bit longer to make that happen. What's interesting is that back in 2014, I applied for this very same job, and the process was a little different at that time. So at that time, all roles, both technical and management at this level, had to go through our engineering succession planning group, which is a group of leaders from across the company that had to vet and approve of all candidates for roles in this position before they could be considered. So you had to have a sponsor. So I had a sponsor to take my name to the succession planning group and to vouch for me and speak for me. They approved my nomination for the role. So the role was posted and I applied and I bid on it and I went through the interviews. And at that time, the role was given to a candidate who had 10 more years of experience. So it's just interesting that over the course of 6 years, the process changed quite a bit to make it quite a bit more streamlined and easier, at least for the candidate.
Yeah, that's good to hear that they made it a little bit easier to go through. It sometimes does feel like just the process of getting there is an impediment to even wanting to apply. So then Pam, what was your last promotion like?
Mine's a little more like what Christy went through 6 years ago, and I hope my company will learn some of the streamlining. For me, I had two of my sponsors start kicking me. I had kind of backfilled someone that was at this level, but was not given the promotion, and they also didn't backfill that role. So I was kind of on a 1-year job interview, if I knew it or not. And my sponsors kind of started giving me the shove of like, you need to start doing this. And so I worked with my boss and with my vice president to see if they felt like I was ready for the role, 1, and 2, if there was still a business need to backfill the person that had previously had the role, since we had been operating without that person for about 9 months when we started these discussions. Thankfully, they were supportive on both fronts. They felt like we really needed this role for our organization, and they also felt like I had demonstrated my readiness. Then it became time to get a shepherd assigned. So this is somebody that's already at this level and has had experience for a while that can help you get your packet ready and also helps get your boss ready for the review board. I had to write a packet that I endearingly refer to as the thesis of me, because it's about 20 pages of both what I've done, but also how I've done things, how I've influenced the business, how I've helped leaders make decisions, my innovation, things of that nature as well. When that was all ready, we went to the board process. This is a place for in my company where I don't get to go to the board as the candidate. My boss goes on my behalf and goes through about a 1-hour interview with people that have read through the thesis of me or the packet. In my case, thankfully, the board came back with an approval, but they can come back and say they want you to work on a few things. They can come back and say that you need to have significant work before you can be approved. But once I was approved, then it was just HR needing to officially move me into the role and work through their processes.
And how much time and how much, I mean, like calendar time and how much work time did it take you putting that whole packet together?
Yeah, so from the time my vice president said he was supportive until we went to board was just under 6 months. And the packet itself, I probably put 40 or 60 hours in. You write it and then you rewrite it and you rewrite it and you rewrite it one more time to make sure that it's perfect. And that's what the shepherd's there for, is to help you put your best foot forward and say some of the things that you wouldn't say about yourself, like what a serial innovator you are because you have 13 patents. I would never say that about myself, ever. But somebody else would say it about me.
Okay. And Ashley, what about your last promotion? Tell us about that.
Sure. So my last promotion was going from a senior product development engineer to a principal product development engineer. And I had to follow a similar path as far as filling out an extensive thesis of me. I like that term. That's fun. But yeah, it was pretty extensive. It took a long time to prepare. And that consisted of things like my, the projects that I had worked on, the outcomes of those projects, the sales of those projects and products that were commercialized from those projects, contributed to the company, any patents or patent applications that we had filed or granted, professional contributions. So what I do in my profession outside of my immediate job role, and also letters of reference from, so I work in an R&D role. So I had to have letters of reference from people who are outside of R&D. So I had some supply chain people and portfolio people write letters of support for me. And then my manager, he presented that docket to a career committee. And from there, they can decide whether to approve or decline. And lucky for me, they approved. So, and I would follow the same type of process for the next step as well.
Yeah, so all of these sound like some serious work to put these packets together, and increasingly more rigorous as you try to go up to higher level positions, and especially on getting business alignment at the higher positions. But it's good to share with everyone that you need to be asking these questions about the promotion process and how it works at your company, especially as you start climbing higher on the technical ladder, so that you're making a point of having the information you're going to need to put this kind of packet together if that's required at your company, and to be prepared for the time you're going to need to actually pull it together, so that you're not trying to do it last minute as there is an opportunity available, or something like that. I'd also say sounds like a great mentoring opportunity, that as we progress through our careers, we need to reach back and help someone else prepare for their promotion. And again, that business acumen part came up, that you have to know what the business need is to show how your technical skills benefit the company. And I bet some of you can make a case for something that your management never thought you could actually make a case for, because we have really awesome and clever engineers here at SWE. So on the topic of documentation, how have publishing, patents, and presentations been a part of your career development or in getting that promotion and going into that packet you put together? Ashley, if you'd start us off.
Sure. So as a graduate student, publishing is a requirement to earn advanced technical degrees. So that is a non-negotiable in that way. You also have to present at different technical conferences as well. For me, the industry doesn't seem to care as much about publications as it does about patents. So for my role, we're always expected to file for disclosures of invention and patent applications where we can. We spend a lot of time speaking with legal to file these patents and draft them. And also we have to be very aware of what our competitors are drafting and, well, not drafting, of what they're filing. So we stay current and up to date with what IP is coming into the market as well. And we also need to monitor what our competitors are doing to make sure that they're not violating any of our intellectual property as well. So we have to be active and in the knowledge of intellectual property, and active in monitoring it. It's really important to an organization like mine that has a huge R&D organization that directly contributes to our sales every year. And also for me, if I were to move up to the fellow grade or above, which would be my next step, that having IP filed and granted is also a requirement.
Okay, that's good information. And Pam, can you tell us, add a little bit to what Ashley said?
Yeah, I completely agree with Ashley. Being able to demonstrate your expertise both internally and externally as you start to get to distinguished technologist, fellow, senior fellow levels, it is critical for the role. And a big part of how you do that is a mix of, what is your patent portfolio that you have to your name? If you've been on any presentations or white papers externally or publications, a lot of times that may be helping with industry standards as well, would count into that space. So all of those activities are really important, both because it helps your profession, but also as you move through your promotions to move up the ladder. For me personally, I would add professional engineer to the list as something that has helped through my career. If nothing else, I don't need it necessarily to do my job, but having a state board that says I know my stuff has come in handy when going through my more senior technical promotions. So something else to think about in addition to just patents and publications and presentations is your licensing and any certificates that might be relevant for your area of focus.
Okay, thanks. Good add on the PE. It's definitely not something that's needed in a lot of job roles, especially if you're not doing civil structural engineering. But good to see there's, I guess on one way, it's good to see that there's another use for it. Another way, it's a little disappointing that you've got to put that out there still to get a little more street cred. So most of us work for managers, business leaders, and people leaders who all started out in the same place as we did with engineering or other STEM science degrees, but moved away from doing technical work. Have you ever considered switching to management track or just taking a non-technical role? Christy, if you would start us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did take a non-technical role at the suggestion of my division manager at the time. I took a supervisory role for about 5 years. And I thought it was a really good experience. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my leadership style. That's really probably where I got the most education on the business side and the business acumen. I also learned that I love being an engineer. For me, to be happy and to make my best contributions, I need to have a strong technical component in my role. So that's why I decided to move back to the technical track. Fortunately, within Caterpillar, particularly at those early management levels, it's pretty fluid and easy to go back and forth between the management track and the technical track, at least for a couple of salary grades in there before you tend to be more solidly in one track or the other. Another thing that I think was really helpful is that my current manager recognizes that a technical steward role is very much a leadership role in addition to the technical expertise. So when he was evaluating candidates for this position, past supervisory experience was a highly desired characteristic. So the fact that I had that experience made me one of the top candidates that he was considering. And in my current role, even though I don't have direct reports, I still do coaching and mentoring, and I'm a part of my division's leadership teams. So I'm also involved in making business decisions and help setting strategy.
Awesome. That's a really good experience, Christy. And good luck being an engineer too. I always find it funny when people graduate with an engineering degree and then they go running away towards management. Because I didn't go to management school. I went to engineering school because I love solving technical problems, figuring out how stuff works and how it can work better. It's very important to think about what we enjoy when we're making these kinds of decisions about where our career is going. Personally, I got an engineering degree to use it.
I agree with you completely, Catherine.
Not everybody, but that's just me and several of us here. So one thing though that's important is if you're not sure about whether you want to do management or technical, make sure you go ahead and get that solid technical foundation early on. If you have that, it's really easy to do like Christy did and move between career paths. But if you wait more than 3 to 5 years after graduation, roughly, to get your first technical role, you'll start seeing increasing obstacles to going along that technical path. I've seen a lot of friends that happen to, and they've really had to fight and struggle just to get into that first technical role when they were past the 5-year mark. So keep that in mind if you're not sure err on the side of get your technical foundation, and it will always serve you. Then let's talk a little bit more about our previous roles. How have stretch assignments or changing technology areas helped you grow your skills and advance your career? I know Pam had some pretty big jumps in her career. So will you go ahead and give us some insight there, Pam?
Absolutely. I joke that my career path is just one series of stretch assignments after another. You know, it's worked for me in part because of my own technical curiosity that's fueled it. I started at a company that had a rotation program, so I had to move after a year and a half. And I wanted to stay technical, so I went into materials. And then that company encouraged us to move every 3 to 5 years. So, you know, I could have stayed close to home, or I could have kept broadening myself. And I kind of learned early on my natural tendency was to get towards things that I only knew about 40, maybe 50% of how to do the job when I got into the job, but I like learning. And, you know, at this point, I actually say that to people that, you know, I don't want a job that I know how to do. I want a job that I'm going to grow in and I'm going to learn it. I've had a couple big leaps of faith, though, along the way. You know, I spent a decade in consumer products, and then I moved into tech. And tech is a very different world than consumer products. And so there were things I could reapply, and there were things I had to learn and adapt as I moved into the tech space. I will also say, you know, when I moved from Apple to HP with reliability, I knew nothing about reliability. I mean, I had taken products to market, but I was not a reliability engineer. And so that was another big leap of faith that I could figure it out, that I knew enough about process and manufacturing and materials and assembly that I could figure out how to do this job. And thankfully I did. And I had some great mentors and coaches and support around, and I knew how to go find resources and learn. Another big jump was when I went over to operations and customer assurance. You know, if you're somebody that's in R&D, you've probably heard, you know, if you leave R&D, you can never come back. First and foremost, that's a complete load of crap. But every one of us that's made that choice, you wrestle with it. And so for me to leave R&D and go to operations and customer assurance was a little scary. And then a couple of years later, I went and left that and went to quality, which doesn't fit really in any group. So, you know, feel comfortable following the things that interest you, and feel comfortable saying, you know, I don't know how to do it all, but I'm able to learn and I like to learn. And just follow your career where it goes.
Yeah, I kind of think it's crazy you're told you couldn't go back to R&D, because I started in capital projects and then moved into R&D after 6 years of experience, and everybody loved that I had experience with real plants because it filled a lot of skill gaps in the R&D groups that were mostly populated by newly minted PhDs. So Ashley, can you add on to what Pam said?
Sure. So I love the new challenges. So I try to take project assignments or different opportunities to engage with different product lines that are outside of my normal business area. Typically, I make packaging for food care. And so I've sought out and have been given some assignments within our product care or protective packaging product line. So that's been a lot of fun. I got to learn new product lines and new extrusion technology. And so those projects that were outside of my normal area combined with high priority projects that are inside of food care R&D, I have been able to learn new things and demonstrate skills in execution and being a reliable engineer, a reliable technical resource. And I've also feel that taking those types of assignments helped me gain rapport with people I might not have come into contact with normally. So I've been able to expand my network and expand my knowledge base by continuing to pursue types of assignments like that.
Great. And we've got one more question on our list, but we're getting short on time. So I'm gonna say I've noticed a lot of questions in the chat. And Emily, if you've got something else, jump in after me. But I've noticed a lot of questions in the chat about timing on getting roles, how long between roles, how do you make sure you're getting the right kind of work experience to be prepared for a technical promotion. And I think the other one was on how companies are handling diversity, ensuring there's a diverse pool. And I think a lot of that's going to vary from company to company. And those are all good questions to go back and start asking your leadership, your mentors, how that works. Hopefully if your company is already active with SWE and active with employee resource groups, they're already thinking about a lot of those DEI questions. But if they're not, start asking them, help them start thinking about it, and start asking mentors and figuring it out for yourself. Help find the people who can help you do that. So I don't think we can sit here and say, well, this is what you need to do, or this is the best practice. I think all of pretty much across the industry, companies are struggling with figuring out how to do this right. There's a lot of work that's been done in most companies with HR on removing unconscious bias and things like that, and trying to make sure that practices are inclusive. But as it goes back to the question about making sure you're getting the right roles, that is key when you're talking about these kind of senior technical positions, that you've got to get those opportunities, and it starts 10, 15 years back before you get that role, that you need to be getting those opportunities. So Emily, do we have any questions that aren't on a variation on that theme that I didn't catch?
There's been over 9 questions, so combining a few, one of them would be, what programs exist at companies to assist women advance on the technical path?
So I can take that one.
Sure.
Lots of companies will have mentoring, sponsorship programs, and when in doubt, go and start one yourself. You might have noticed it on my timeline, but 2 years ago, I started a monthly group for us women at the master level, which there were a little more than 100 of us across the company, to be able to get together and just, one, network and know each other and support each other, but two, also work on the skills and the questions that we had on how to advance. So if you don't see it, don't be afraid to approach a leader and, what would it take? How can we do this?
Okay.
Another question is, are sponsors and mentors relevant for lower level promotions, like engineer 1 and 2, all the way to senior roles?
I'll take that one. In my experience, mentors and sponsors are always relevant throughout your career. They become more critical as you're kind of trying to go up the pyramid. So there are fewer opportunities as you go higher and higher up the pyramid, because they have better visibility to the right people, and they can get the right people to know about you. As you're looking at some of these roles, I think it's really important that the people who are hiring and filling those roles can see you in that role and filling that role. And if they don't know who you are, that can make it very difficult. But absolutely, they're relevant at the lower levels, because they can help you think through where you might want to go next, what might be good opportunities, help you weigh some different options that you may have, or sometimes help push you and say, I know you're comfortable where you are, but I think you need to try something new, and expand your horizons.
Great. And then I also saw some questions on influencing. So I think we want to get our last question in here, because it's on the topic of sphere of influence. So as a technical contributor, we typically don't have direct reports that we can ask to do work that we want them to do, nor do we have the authority to make business decisions. So we have to use other skills to affect business outcomes. Part of our effectiveness comes from our sphere of influence. So what tips do you have to expand that sphere of influence? And I would also say this is also your support system, your network, places you can pull mentors from to help you answer a lot of these questions that you're asking about your companies. So Christy, if you will start us on that one.
Absolutely. So I think in my experience, there have been three things in my career that have been really key to expanding that sphere of influence. The stretch assignments that we were just talking about are a big one. As Ashley mentioned, those often give you the opportunity to work with and build rapport with a whole new group of people that you never would have interacted with otherwise. So it gives you that experience to build those networks and to become that trusted advisor and that known expert for this new group of people. That was one of the biggest things in my career when I moved back to a technical role into our drivetrain organization and got exposure to a whole new part of the organization. Another thing that's been key for me is attending and presenting at internal technical conferences. So as a large company, Caterpillar has several internal technical conferences almost every year in a variety of technical spaces. And by attending those and building my network, both in structures, which is my specialty, and in areas that are adjacent, like materials and simulation, that's helped me broaden my network and become recognized as an expert by folks that may not be in the structures community, but are closely related to structures. And finally, throughout my career, I have been honored and privileged to have the opportunity to represent my part of the organization on enterprise-wide technical teams. That has been invaluable to helping expand my sphere of influence as I get to meet and work with some of these people and make sure that I'm actively participating in those discussions and activities. It's been a huge boost in my sphere of influence.
Great. And we're right at 5 o'clock, but I want Ashley to get a chance to add a little bit more to that. So go ahead, Ashley.
Sure, I'll talk quick. Something I do want to bring up in regards to a sphere of influence and networking that's been really important for me is relationships and networking outside of work also matter. So I'm super involved with my local SWE section. I'm the section president of the Western Carolina section, and through the work that we've been doing in our community with different schools and different science centers and people who work in for different companies, naturally we network with each other and have a local network that's really impactful. And also maintaining relationships and connections with either past colleagues or advisors and managers is a wise move, because it keeps other influential people informed of what you're up to, what you're interested in, the next moves that you're looking to make. So that could be critical in your network. And also work that you do in outside organizations like SWE or an alumni group or something else can impact your workplace as well. So because I've been so involved with SWE, someone that I work with saw that I was the local section president and pulled me into our gender equity network and DE&I work that we're doing internally at work, because they knew I had experience with that outside of work. So it can directly translate into workplace efforts as well.
Excellent. And that's our time for today. Oh yeah, we can stay on that slide. And if we can just paste that into the chat, it'd be great. So everybody has those. You can continue this conversation by reaching out on our platforms. Finding us on LinkedIn. I think we're all on LinkedIn, and coming with, if we've got specific questions, just looking for some mentoring and advice, feel free to reach out to us. Jenny, did you have any other wrap-up items before we go?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for just taking the time to join us. We were excited to bring this first panel to you. We would love any feedback that you have, I'll go ahead and drop our email address into the chat actually. And you're welcome to email us with any feedback on how we can do better next time for you, as well as any interest you have in us including you within the panel if you haven't already provided your email address to us. So really, we just really appreciate it. And then if you wouldn't mind, Chelsea, can you jump back over really quick for me to the engagement data that we had just for the people who weren't able to participate earlier on? And we'll jump through this real quick. So I was really excited on the first slide to see the diversity that we had in terms of different groups of people that were able to participate. So thank you again for everyone that was here. We had a strong technical presence, which was great, but also management, sales. There was a human resources person in there. So thanks for diversifying it and taking the opportunity to engage and see the world through different lenses as well. So we appreciate that. And then let's go ahead and jump to the next few. We wanted to make this a little bit fun. We hope to include this in our future panels as well. So here were the names that were listed, and the size of the characters also is representative of those names that appeared the most. So there's some interesting work here. And one of our panelists, Marie, thank you for putting all these slides together. And then we'll jump over to the next one. And this was a fun one. What animal represents your preferred technical leader? So we had some fun ones in here. The spider really sticks out to me, I guess, which is kind of funny and interesting. And to hear the story behind that one would be fun. And the octopus, I think, occurred more than once, if I remember. So really, that's all I wanted to wrap up with. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. We will post the recording to our YouTube site, and I will also go ahead and drop the email information if it hasn't already been added here. You can add that to our slide.
Yeah, and we can keep the Zoom meeting open for a little bit so you can have time to copy off any of the links or have a little bit more discussion. But we know that our time is up, so many people will have to move on to the next meeting of the day or start getting dinner. You know, it is that time of day on the East Coast.
For sure, yeah. And keep your eye out. We're going to be doing a call for our next round of panelists for our next topic in the next month. I think we'll need to get it out there. If we're even considering if we can submit this panel for the WE 23 conference in the next one. So keep your eye out for that if you're interested in being a panelist for us as well.
And feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. We're all there.
Let me make sure I got that email address right. I'm trying to scroll back up here. So I might have put a .com, not thinking it's actually an org. So I'm just going to type it again because the chat is. Okay, well, great. Thank you, everyone. We'll leave the chat open.